It's Pyram King, and I'm super excited to bring to you another guide to Curse of Strahd. This one is the Berez church ruins. We've got Marina's monument. We've got a crypt underneath the monument. We've got vampire zombies, a new creature, magic, lunar ring, a riddle, puzzles, and so much more. Really excited to bring this one to you. It ties in some other locations in Berez as well. It ties in the Burgermeister's ruined manor. That if you haven't seen that guide, you should check it out. It's the one that ties into this one. There's a quest that ties back and forth. It also ties into the stone circle, the fane for the water fae, and includes some lore to Tatiana as well as Strahd. So much here to bring to you. Now, before I get started, a huge shout out to my 700 supporters. We have over 700 supporters. I'm totally blown away. After a year-long epic journey in creating these guides, we really are getting some great momentum. Amazing people out there supporting. And if you are a supporter at the adventure level, the foundry level, your names are actually credits here in the guide. Look at all these amazing people making all of this possible. The Foundry modules, the PDF guides, the voice acting, everything. Huge shout out to you. If you do support me at the PDF level, your names are in the PDF guide. So big shout out to everyone. Also, thank you for sharing your great campaign stories on our Discord channel. You should come and join us on there. Special shout out to and special huge thank you to my partner in this epic journey. That's DM Andy. He makes the gorgeous battle maps. We're going to be looking at 3 of them here today. He's gracious enough to allow us to include them in our Foundry modules. These are WebP versions, are very efficient. However, if you're looking at the 4K or the 8K, the grid, high resolutions, weather, night, day effects, those are all available on DM Andy's Patreon page. Go check them out. Huge thank you to him. Also, none of this would happen without Blair and the Scene Packer module and his support. If you are interested in creating your own adventure for Foundry, bringing it to life, go over to Blair's Patreon page, check it out, find out how he can support you making your adventures for Foundry. And if you'd like to support me on this epic journey, get access to the Foundry modules and everything else, you can. There's links in the description so you can become an adventurer or traveler supporter in this epic journey. Now, with all that out of the way, and a huge thank you, let's jump into this guide. Now, as you know, before I get into anything, I like to talk about the lore, what's going on in the location, a little bit of history, what's going on with the NPCs and everything in this particular location, because I feel it's very important as you as the dungeon master or game master to understand this. Why? Well, the one thing we all know about role-playing games is your players will do what you least expect at the most inopportune time. And the more you're comfortable and have knowledge about the location, the NPCs there, the easier it is for you to improv and to act on the fly and come up with answers and solutions and just to roll with it. So I'm going to give you some nuggets of information about this location to help you really get a good solid core understanding and framework of what's going on here. So let's open up this. First thing we need to know is the Church of Berez, of the Morning Lord, was created centuries ago when the early kings were here. And while the people of Berez were predominantly pagan, still worshiping the Fae, they also accepted and respected the Church of the Morning Lord. See, Brother Gregor, the last of the fathers of the Church of the Morning Lord before it was destroyed, was close friends with the Burgermeister of Berez, Burgermeister Laszlo Ulrich. And there was this mutual respect and understanding. See, Brother Gregor and the Burgermeister Ulrich respected the land and nature and the people. They always put the people first and land and nature first. And so there was this, even though one was pagan and worshiping Fae and one was the Church of the Morning Lord, they really unified in Berez. It became this place of spiritual enlightenment, a beautiful village full of great and wonderful people. Now, one of the things that we do talk about in the Burgermeister's Guide, tying this location to the Burgermeister of Berez, is Oleg's remains. The Burgermeister Ulrich's son, Oleg Ulrich, was one of the knights of the Order of the Silver Dragon during the Great War. And Strahd had captured them, tortured and murdered the son of the Burgermeister and impaled him on a pike outside of Castle Ravenloft. The Burgermeister and Brother Gregor went there to retrieve the body, to bring them back in hopes of burying him at the Church of the Morning Lord in Berez. Unfortunately, that was never come to be, and Oleg's remains are in the cellar in the Burgermeister's manor in Berez. And so if the players go there and get the remains, they can bring him back to the church and bury him. Finally finish what the Burgermeister just wishes to do, is to bury his son's remains. Now, the other thing that's tied to this location is Marina's monument and Marina's fate. There's very little about it in the rules as written. We've expanded the lore here and added a new location, the Crypts. During the Great War, Strahd had come to Berez to speak with the Burgermeister, and upon the visit, Strahd met a local village girl from Berez, and he became instantly obsessed with her because he believed she possessed the soul of Tatiana, his lost love, his brother's fiance, in which Strahd had fallen in love with. Now, Strahd's obsession with Marina was all-consuming. He constantly came back to the village of Berez to meet with her. Now, Brother Gregor of the Morning Lord Church became concerned because Marina started getting weak and ill. She stopped showing up at the church, and Brother Gregor grew suspicious of Lord Strahd and believed that Lord Strahd had become a vampire and began feeding on Marina and would eventually turn her into the undead. Now, Brother Gregory sought help from the abbey and Sister Markovia, blessed Sister Markovia, but no one could save her because Marina had entered in what's known as the gray state. She had been fed on so many times by Strahd, there was no way to bring her back and to reverse what has happened. And the next time Strahd would feed on her, well, she would eventually turn right into the undead, into a vampire. Brother Gregor had only one course of action to save her soul, and that was to go through a ceremony to save her soul, far worse, from death, and to sacrifice her body. So Brother Gregor and the Burgermeister took a course of action in which they performed this ritual to preserve, a holy ritual to preserve her soul, and killed her living body and then buried her in consecrated ground. Now, when Strahd learned that this happened, right, and we have to put some things into context, right? Berez is also the home, right next to Berez is the home of Argynvost. Strahd's greatest enemy, during the Great War was Argynvost. So that's right near, and they were very close. We also had the Water Fae, who later became the Swamp Fae, who Strahd had also cursed. You have Brother Gregor, who really didn't like Strahd. So the Berez represented the village that was kind of the source of the resistance of Strahd becoming the Lord of Barovia. And with the saving the soul of Marina and killing her body, that was like the last straw. Strahd just lost it. And he went there and viciously and violently murdered the Burgermeister of Berez, murdered Brother Gregory, cursed Berez, it turned it into a swamp, cursed his people, and literally destroyed this town. And it was a message to everyone in Barovia: do not defy Strahd. Everybody can go look at Berez and go, yeah, you pissed Strahd off, this is what's going to happen to your village. So Berez is this permanent fixture in Barovia that represents not only the early resistance to Strahd, but what happens to you and your village when you do resist Strahd. Now, when Marina was killed and buried in sacred ground, Strahd built this monument to Marina, and it was a tribute not only to her, but to the other women throughout the centuries that had, or perhaps had at one time, possessed Tatiana's soul. So he built this monument sort of towards Marina, who was taken from him, but also to Tatiana and all the other young women who may have possessed Tatiana's soul. Now, there's a problem in Barovia, which you read in Rules as Written. Because the mist kind of encapsulate Barovia, souls aren't able to escape. And sometimes the souls aren't reborn into new Barovians. So sometimes Barovians are born, babies are born without souls. Now, if Strahd converts one of these soulless Barovians, perhaps thinking that she has the soul of Tatiana in her, maybe she looks like her but doesn't have Tatiana's soul, or maybe did, but the Barovian itself was soulless and is converted to a vampire, they're converted into zombie vampires. This is a new breed of vampire that has no self-awareness. It's literally a zombie/vampire. And Strahd created a secret crypt underneath Marina's monument to entomb these zombie vampires. There are 6 of them there who were other women who Strahd had converted into vampires to try to possess Tatiana's soul, which eluded him. and they were soulless Barovians turning into zombie vampires. So there's 6 of them there. We're going to find out all about it. A really interesting combat encounter. They have some interesting stat block as well, so we'll be talking about that here shortly. So that gives you the background, what's going on there in Barovia, in Berez, the Church of Berez, and the monuments there. Let's jump into the first map here. We've got the first gorgeous map here by DM Andy. I'm gonna make these guys invisible here. I'm gonna show you how this works. The first thing I want to talk about is you're going to notice as you're coming into the church, right? The church is in ruins. You're going to see some pixies out here. We've got a pixie here. And one of the things about the pixies, and I've included them throughout the swamps of Berez, is they're neutral. If a player's attacked them, they will disappear. The pixies have information that they can share with the players. Information about the hags and the swamp witches and the Barovian witches and the ruins and different things. I see the pixies as that elusive NPC, right? The players are in Berez, which is a big area. There's a lot of locations. It's a dangerous area. It's depressing. They're trying to move through it. They're trying to find things. These pixies are these little moments of salvation. They're the elusive NPC, a little reprieve in the darkness of Berez, where they can share information, lore, or something to re-navigate those players or that party back on track. Maybe they're lost, maybe they don't know something. So these are great little encounters to help players, give them a little bit of a rest, give them tidbits of information, feeding them a little bit of lore. I like to have these elusive NPCs around throughout my campaigns just for this. They in themselves aren't important, but the knowledge that they have or the ability for them to steer players or parties in a direction or help facilitate answers make the game, it helps the game from stalling. It helps the players get information when by other means they're not able to. So there's some pixies here. We got a few of them outside. Andy's put some little beautiful areas where they are. You can see them right here. There they are. Now when you get inside the church, and I'm using Monk's active tile tokens, something interesting happens as soon as you step into the church. I'm going to get this loaded up here for you so you can see what happens. We've got 3 buttons over here. So you're going to double click the first one, which is the sermon. So, and I'm just going to pretend your players enter the church. We got a test player. He just enters in the church here. Comes in, as soon as they enter the church, the first player, this is what happens.
The morning Lord will see us through this darkness. Sunlight will pierce the darkest shadows, shining its holy light upon the evil. We must not let our corruption of the flesh consume our souls. Stay true to the morning Lord, and he will bless each one of you. We have some new parishioners. Welcome. Please join us. Are you here to have your souls set free? Free of the dark mist that plague these corrupt lands?
So what happens is when you push that button, Brother Gregor's ghost emerges, so do these spirits in here. And what's going on is Brother Gregor is going through the motions of giving a sermon. His ghost, his spirit, and the spirit of several of the villagers from Berez are stuck, not only because they're soulless and because of the mist, and this is the only place they feel at peace, is to go through this motions of Brother Gregor, the ghost of Brother Gregor, leading his flock. So the players come in and they see this, they witness this sermon. Brother Gregor notices them and welcomes them into the church. Now you can role play this yourself, or you can use the voice acting sound file, which I included. By the way, if you're a PDF member, and with a PDF, I include all the voice sound files too, so you can use this at your tabletop as well. You'll notice in the background is you're going to hear the whispering of the ghosts, and the ghosts are just the parishioners, the ghost of the parishioners of this once church hundreds of years ago. Now, for the stat blocks, these are just normal spirits Nothing interesting in the stat blocks, fairly low CR1 level, and Brother Gregor is just a Go CR4. Normal Ghost stat blocks, nothing here unusual. And they're in there only for the fact in case the players just want to start attacking and you're going to go into combat encounters, you know what they are. But they're not here for a combat encounter. They're here to answer some questions and give the players a quest. Now, the ghosts themselves, I imagine, and the way I would roleplay this is the ghosts don't really pay attention to the players. The only one that's communicating directly to the players is Brother Gregor. And that leads us to the second interaction, which is bury Oleg. Now, as you know from the Burgermeister ruins in Berez, the ghost there of the Burgermeister Ulrich tells the players, find my son's remains in the cellar, Oleg's remains, and bury them at the church. So it very well be that the players in the party are coming to the church because they've already visited the Burgermeister's ruins and met the ghost there. Or in case they're already here, they might have to go there and get the remains. So the ghost will make this kind of ambiguous discussion about burying Oleg. So if the players haven't been to the ruins of the Burgermeister, they can go there and get the remains and bring them back. Or if they have the remains with them, they already know what to do. So I'm going to play this for you. I'm going to go ahead and mute it, and I'm going to play this text in here. Again, you're going to hear the whispering in the background of the ghosts and the parishioners in here. So here we go. I'm going to click this, and it's also going to print the text here in Foundry. Both the text and everything, as well as the sound file, as I mentioned before, is available in PDF.
Poor Oleg. He was the bravest of us, giving his life to protect us from the Dark Lord Strahd. It was the Dark Lord Strahd who killed him, impaled him on a pike outside of Castle Ravenloft as a warning to all. I helped his father, Burgermeister Ulrich, retrieve his body to bury him here in our graveyard. At last, the Dark Lord was upon us, destroyed the town of Berez, cursed its people, and cut the Burgermeister and me down. A horrible death I should not wish upon anyone. Bury Oleg's remains in the graveyard, and I shall make sure they are protected.
So this, again, can lead the players to go find the remains, which are at the Burgermeister's manor. And if the players don't know where it is, Brother Oleg can direct them. It's here in town. There's the Burgermeister manor's just over there. Or they can, if they have the bones, they can go ahead and bury them. And that leads to the third interaction, which is the most important interaction here, and that is the quest. Brother Gregor here is concerned about something here, and he's going to tell you what he's concerned about. And I want you to listen to this particular sound file very carefully, because the whispering in there is going to provide clues. There's a riddle that the players are going to have to solve, and in the whispering is the answer to that riddle. Now, the players can most likely, I think the players are going to have no problem solving it. It is an anagram. We'll be looking at that shortly. But just in case, if the players happen to be one of those players that's paying attention to what's going on in the whispering, what is the whisper saying, it will tell them what the riddle is. So it's pretty cool. There's some very interesting information in this quest as well that'll help the players. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this one. I'm going to mute it, and you can listen to what Brother Gregor has to say about the quest of the vampire zombies.
If I could call upon your service to rid this land of evil, I would be most grateful, and I would finally be able to rest. The Dark Lord Strahd had taken an interest in Marina, a young village girl whom he believed was the reincarnation of Tatiana, a woman whom he is obsessed with. The Dark Lord began to turn Marina into one of his undead vampire brides. but the Burgermeister Ulrich and myself ended her life and freed her soul before she could be turned. The Dark Lord built a monument to Marina, which stands north of the church in the swamp. The Dark Lord has continued his search for Tatiana's soul, and many a young woman has Strahd turned into vampires in this search. Many Barovians are born without a soul, and those who are turned into vampires without a soul become vampire zombies. Several young women whom the Dark Lord has turned were without souls and became these horrid vampire zombies. The Dark Lord Strahd entombed these soulless vampire zombies in a secret crypt. That secret crypt lies beneath Marina's monument. These zombie vampires must be destroyed, and the crypt blessed as consecrated sacred ground, protecting it from the undead and future zombie vampires. There is a prayer book in the church. Read the following prayers: the salutation to the dawn, the sunset prayer, nevermore night supplication, the death prayer, the prayer against the undead, and finally, in your name. Together they will bless and consecrate the crypt as sacred ground. It will also turn any remaining undead in the crypt to ash. The prayers must be read in order in the center of the crypt. You must not be interrupted during the blessing. I will know when it is done, and with Oleg's bones finally put to rest, and the crypt as consecrated ground, I will finally be able to rest. Marina's monument lies to the north of the church's graveyard in the swamp. It is but a short distance. A riddle locks the crypt. Solve the riddle, and you shall enter.
All right, there's quite a bit of information there in this particular quest. First of all, you know the direction of Marina's monument, just north of the graveyard, a short distance. You also know that there's a riddle that locks the crypt. There's a secret crypt. To get into the crypt, you need to solve the riddle. Now, if you were listening to the whispering, you hear it over and over, taken by the mist, taken by the mist. In the rules as written, the brief reference, it talks about Marina's monument as Marina's epitaph, Marina taken by the mist. I changed that taken by the mist into an anagram, which we will see shortly, which the players need to solve. And I thought it'd be fun to incorporate the answer to that anagram here in the whispering of the parishioners' ghosts in the church. The other thing here is it talks about a prayer book to be found in the church. The players will see it right away. It's sitting right there next to Brother Gregor's ghost on the altar. There's a blue prayer book there, and there's a bunch of prayers in it. We're going to take a look at it right now. That prayer book is the exact same prayer book, by the way, that you would find in the Abbey with Brother Gregor's notes in the back of it. And what's important in here is he tells you need to read certain prayers in order. Not all the prayers, but there are certain prayers in here that you need to read in order to go through the blessing ritual inside the crypt to create consecrated sacred ground. Once the ritual is complete, any zombie, vampires, or zombies in the crypt will turn to ash, and you've protected the crypt forevermore. So that's quite a bit of information there that's going to be quite helpful to you to solve this problem here, is to get to go through the reading in here. There's a lot of great information in there as well that you need to do. And once you've completed both of those, then the burying of Oleg's bones, as well as solving the problem of the zombie vampires up there, then finally Brother Gregor can be put to rest. Now, Brother Gregor doesn't give you a quest with a reward so much as him putting to rest and helping you with the quest from burying Oleg's bones. However, there is a reward here that's given to you by somebody else inside the crypt. Now, if we zoom out just to the north of the church, we have the graveyard up here. And I debated quite a bit whether I wanted to throw in another encounter, a combat encounter up here in the graveyard. And my feeling was this. Berez is really dense with combat. If you've gone through the hex crawl, if we've gone through the Master Ulrich's manor with the garden, there's a lot of combat encounters. It's a very dark and dense, depressing area, Berez is. And there's several locations, and you have to take on Baba Lysaga as well. There's some other interesting locations. I thought this particular map and this scene would be a reprieve. You're interacting with ghosts. This is a role-playing scene. You've got the Pixies to interact with lore. Maybe there's a peaceful moment in the misty graveyard where you're able to finally put Oleg's bones to rest. Maybe say a short prayer over it or something like that. I feel that in this game, especially Curse of Strahd, is you need to control that pacing. You don't want to have every session be heavy combat, heavy combat, heavy combat. This is an epic campaign with stories and mysteries and quests. This is one of those moments in Berez where you can take a reprieve. You got some information, some role-playing. Players can just really think things through for a little bit here. Okay, so just north of the graveyard, we have Marina's monument. We're going to go there right now to Marina's monument. And this is another gorgeous map created by DM Andy. And there's a couple of things in this map that we need to be aware of. First of all, I want to show you something I did in this map in Foundry. I'll show you the walls here. I created specialty walls here. These are transparent walls for vision, for sound, and for movement, but they block light. And I wanted to create a river, a kind of a marshy, watery area here. And I'm just using light. There's no specialty Foundry modules at all to do this. It's just light. If you're interested to figure out how I did this, I make these Foundry Zen videos. There's one on this particular, I think it's Foundry Zen video 15 on Marina's monument. And I wanted this because I wanted this map to be more of a man versus the environment. You are in the swamp. I want to make more of a swampy encounter without heavily combat encounters. So, encounters are social encounters. We think of encounters a lot as combat encounters. This is more of a man versus the environment encounters with some creatures that can hinder this. You're trying to get across the water up to the monument and solve the riddle. So let's talk a little bit about the monument here getting to this map. Now, before we get up to the top and read through the epitaph and talk about the anagram, let's talk about the environment. So the players are going to be arriving on the southern portion of this map, heading north. They're going to see Marina's monument up on this slight rise above in the swamp. There's a statue surrounded by a small iron gate. But they got to cross this water that you see right in here. That's just below it. And the issue with this water that the players need to pay attention to is it's difficult terrain as soon as they step into the water. Now, the first time the players step into the water, what you're going to do is you're going to roll for each player that steps into the water a 1d6. And on a 1, they get stuck in the mud. Like, I imagine they're stepping through the water, and it's all mucky bottom with muddy bottom. There's some roots and branches and stuff down there, and all of a sudden they get stuck. Their foot gets stuck, and they got to pull themselves out. Either a player's going to have to help them pull them out, or they're going to have to pull themselves out. Now, they're going to get stuck. I'm going to make that a DC 18th strength check or acrobatic checks. Strength check to pull themselves out, or you could roll that as an advantage if another player is going to try to pull them out. Now, why is being stuck there? You don't want to have being stuck for just the sake of being stuck. There's a reason for that. I'm going to show you that in a second. There's another way across this water. There's a log over here. If the players try to cross a log, they can do it with a dexterity or acrobatics checks, DC 10, pretty easy. But if they fall in the water because of the splash and the momentum, they're going to get stuck in the mud. Why is being stuck important? It's because of the encounter here. We've got the encounter with the swamp mist and swamp spores. This all works together on this map. It's a very synergetic encounter with the environment. So getting stuck in difficult terrain and the swamp spore is the next thing. Let's talk about the swamp spore. Swamp spores don't move They're pretty weak. They don't do anything, but they have a reaction which recharges on a 6. And what the reaction does is it will blast a sleeping gas within 10 feet of it. If you get 5 feet within a swamp spore, sleeping gas gets blasted in a 10-foot radius. Every creature within that 10 feet needs to roll a Constitution save DC 18, otherwise they fall unconscious for 10 minutes unless another player wakes them up or unless they take damage. So being stuck because you're unconscious or being stuck in the mud plays into the creature here, and that's the swamp mist. So we've got a swamp mist here, and I got 2 of them in here. Now, depending on your player's level and how many players that you have, and also the player's experience, you can have 1, 2, or 3 of these. I wouldn't do more than 3, probably 1 or 2, because this is not necessarily a combat encounter. The swamp mists are going to gravitate towards first, so it's going to pick out any players that are asleep to attack first, or players that are stuck in the mud. The swamp mist are looking for incapacitated players. Either their movement has been restricted from difficult terrain, stuck in the mud, or because they've been knocked out by the spores. Now they have this feature called Life Drain. The mist will touch a creature in the space. The creature must succeed a DC 13 Constitution saving throw. Otherwise, you're going to take 2d6 plus 3 necrotic damage. The mist regains 10 hit points. The target's maximum hit points is reduced by that equal amount of necrotic damage until the next long rest. So this thing out there, this mist is kind of, and the mist has this life sense. It knows within 60 feet of it, it knows where a living creature is. It also knows if that living creature is incapacitated or stuck. So priority, it's going to go after ones that are knocked out. Secondary, the ones that are stuck in the water. So this is going to be one of these frustrating encounters. The players are kind of dealing with the environment, dealing with these swamp spores that don't move, that can knock them out, and dealing with this mist that's trying to life drain them, and all they're trying to do is get to Marina's monument. Now let's talk about the monument when they get there and how this works with the month's active tile trigger. I've got a character I'm going to put here on the map. There we go, we got a character on the map right here. Now, there's a buttons over here that I made because I like using Monk's active tile trigger. We're going to close the crypt. And when the crypt is closed, the tile that you see here as the dungeon master is grayed out. The players cannot see it. It's invisible, and the word down is invisible. They can't see it. So a player character can just walk around in here, nothing happens. They see the monument, and they're going to have to solve the riddle. And remember, we said the riddle was an anagram. And on the epitaph, it says here is Marina masks they bitten. Now, in the rules of written, there's very little written about it. It just says, if you read Curse of Strahd, it says, oh, there's a monument there. Not much other than maybe one of the fortunes of Ravenloft's hidden there. And on the epitaph, it actually says taken by the mist. I decided to turn taken by the mist, turn it into an anagram. Meaning, and it reads masks they bitten, and I felt, trying to solve this, I felt that one kind of fits the best. Bitten, vampires, masks. These vampires have the masks of somebody else, which may have Tatiana's soul in it. It all kind of fits together. If the players solve the anagram, whether they remember from the whispering from the church, remember Brother Gregor asked him to do the quest, and the prisoners are whispering, taken by the mist. Or if they solve the anagram on their own and they say out loud, oh, taken by the mist, all of a sudden the entrance to the crypt reveals itself, and this is how that works. All you have to do is double click over here on Open Crypt. When you double click on Open Crypt, it's going to activate the tile, and also where it says down, the word down will be revealed. And the player character, all they have to do is go down, and they're going to show up here in Marina's crypt. So let's talk about Marina's crypt here. When they step down into the crypt, and we got some text here, let's talk about it really briefly. The Marina's crypt, there's foul swamp water that's flooded the floor of this crypt. To the east and the west sit some alcoves with marble crypts. So we've got 3 marble crypts here to the east and 3 of them here on the west. To the north sits 3 wooden coffins. You can see them here. And to the northeast and to the northwest are stairs leading down, flooded and muddy, making it impossible to head lower. So it looks like there's some stairwells that go down into the mud and water. You can't get down there. You've got these 6 marble crypts and these 3 coffins. And that's the scenario that you're walking into. Now there's a tile here. I'm going to just move it out of the way for a second. So as a player token comes in here, they're going to see this is what this is all they're going to see. And there's a statue in here, very similar to the one, a smaller one, of Marina in here, and there's some water on the floor. Now, what's in each one of these coffins here, and I'm just going to put them in there for you, are the zombie vampires. So we're going to put those in here real quick. Now, what you're going to do is prior to the session, start setting up, you're going to make sure they're in there and they're invisible. They're all marked invisible. And then in the top here, I should hold Alt down because it makes them visible. You've got 3 of the Strahd zombies, 1 in each of the coffins. And then you can just load up some more off the map over here, because I'm going to show you why. Okay, so now we got all the creatures in here. Now, the encounter here can be triggered one of 2 ways. Number 1 is the players start messing around with one of the coffins or one of the crypts. If they go over to one of the coffins and start messing out with one of the coffins, one of Strahd's zombies are going to just wake up and come out of there. You're going to say roll initiative. As soon as that happens, just wake up the other 2 zombies. They're in combat with these other 2 zombies. And at the beginning of each round, one of the vampire zombies comes up out of the crypts, right? Or maybe the players go over to one of the crypts, marble crypts, and are going to try to remove the lid. It's going to take a strength check, DC 18, to move that heavy lift off. And again, they're just going to wake up the zombie vampires, and you're going to go into a combat encounter. That's possible. Some players like to poke around, and maybe they poke around, and you're going to say, well, you just start the combat encounter. If the players don't mess with anything, and they come down here, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen unless they unless they open up one of these coffins or one of these crypts. Will the combat encounter start? But there's a second way in which the combat encounter starts, and that is when you're going to be doing the ritual. So let's talk about the ritual here to get it going. Now remember, Brother Gregor told you the 6 prayers that you need to read in order. And how does this work? The first thing you're going to do when they're going to start, we're going to do the ritual right now. You're going to say roll initiative. Have all your players roll initiative. Take the 3 zombies at the top and all of the other zombies here. Let's see, these here. Whoop. These here and these. Oops. I don't know what I'm doing here. These here. I'll just put them all in, just make them all. Roll them all initiative. Get all of them in an initiative in there. But keep them invisible. Have everybody roll initiative. Keep them invisible. The players are going to have to read, one player is going to have to read the prayer. And each prayer is a full action, takes that player 1 full round to complete a prayer. Now this is going to be pretty interesting because you're going to have role-playing during combat encounters. So one player is going to be standing in the center of the crypt reading the prayer. And I would actually have them read the prayer, have some fun with this. They've got the prayer book. First prayer is Salutation to the Dawn, right? I think that's the first one you're supposed to read. Yep, Salutation to the Dawn. So have the player on their turn read Salutation of the Dawn. Beloved Dawnbringer, I thank you for this new day, filled as ever with your light and love. The sun washes over the land, blah, blah, blah. Have them read this. Have some fun role-playing this. It is the start of reading that first poem on that player's turn that the following stuff happens. As soon as that player on their turn reads the first prayer, you're going to have the 3 zombies in the north bust out of their coffins. So now you've got the 3 Strahd zombies bust out of their coffins. These are normal Strahd zombies. Multi-attack. They have the loathsome limbs feature, which is part of the Strahd zombies rules as written. In addition to the 3 zombies in the top, as soon as they read the first prayer, you're going to select one of the random 6 zombie vampires, and they're going to push open up the marble crypt and come out and attack. So you're going to have 4 creatures in that first round attacking as soon as that player reads their turn. And again, you're going to go in initiative order. So we're going to just wake her up here. So this zombie vampire attacks. Let's talk about the zombie attack stat block. The zombie vampire is very much similar to the vampire spawn. It's got lower hit points than the vampire spawn. It only has a dexterity save, and it has the perception as well as stealth advantages there on its proficiency, proficient in. It does have one additional feature. It has Horrific Scream. Now, Horrific Scream recharges on a 6. So the zombie vampire is going to obviously try to bite if it can, and grapple and bite. But it has this Horrific Scream. And what this does is it releases this Horrific Scream within 20 feet. Any creature within 20 feet of the zombie vampire is going to have to roll a Constitution save DC 13. On a failure, the creature briefly holds its head in pain from this horrific scream and will have disadvantage on all checks, saves, attack rolls, and spellcast rolls until the start of the zombie vampire's next turn. So remember, turns are supposed to represent the same 6 seconds. We're just taking turns, but that whole round represents the same 6 seconds. So when it's the zombie's vampire's turn, it's screaming, letting out this horrific scream. Any creature that was in 20 feet of it is going to have to hold its head, right? Holding its head, I can't hear. You're going to have disadvantage during that round on your checks, saves, attack rolls, and spell casts, right? On a success, the creature is going to take 2d6 on necrotic damage. So you're only going to be affected by necrotic damage. Now, this horrific scream is on a recharge. So the next turn, the zombie vampire is going to have to roll 1d6 to see if it recharges, and only recharges on a 6. This thing can cause some serious problems for you. They're not that powerful. They're only 50 hit points. What's interesting is the zombie vampire's bites are weaker. It's only 1d4 plus 3 on the bite. The claws are only 1d4 plus 3 on the claw. It's only 1d6 worth of necrotic damage. These are half the amount of damage as a vampire spawn, but add in that horrific scream, you're going to be at disadvantage if it gets that off and you fail that save. So these are really interesting creatures to mess with. They do have the spider climb, so I imagine them climbing on the ceiling of the crypt. This is going to be a crazy encounter. What's going to happen is the start of each next round, so the beginning of the next round, another one of these crypts is going to open, and you're going to have another zombie vampire join in. Every round until all 6 of these zombie vampires are going to wake up, begin attacking the players. Now, the zombie vampires are going to go after, the reason that they're screaming is they're going after the person who's saying the prayer. The prayer is affecting these zombie vampires. So the zombie vampires are going to go after that person that's reading the prayer. So that means the players are going to have to run block and tackle, trying to keep these zombie vampires off the player reading the prayer. The player character reading the prayer cannot be interrupted. If the player reading the prayer suffers any damage, they're going to have to read that particular prayer over again. They're going to lose that round. So it's going to take 6 rounds to do this entire ritual. Each round for the player reading the prayer is one full action, one full round. They can't be interrupted by any damage. If they take damage, they got to read that same prayer over again. They've been interrupted. That 6 seconds has been interrupted. They got to read again that prayer. Now, if all the zombies are woken up, you've got all these female. Remember, these are the soulless females that Strahd tried to convert into vampires, which he did. But because they were soulless, they became zombie vampires, and there's 6 of them here. Once all 6 are awakened, and let's say you get into round 7 for whatever reason, what you're going to do in every subsequent round, after all these are awakened, and maybe you've killed them all, every single round until that ritual is complete, out of either the northeast or the northwest, you're going to, at the beginning of the round, you're going to have one of the Strahd zombies crawling up through the mud. Crawling up through the mud. They're not going to stop. You're going to have them constantly spawning in one every single round of these Strahd zombies until you can finish this ritual. So you got to finish the ritual without being uninterrupted. That player's going to have to read through that prayer. It's going to be fun and exciting because the player's going to have to read this prayer. He doesn't want to take, or she doesn't want to take any damage, because you're going to have to do it over that prayer over again to get through this ritual. Now, what happens when the ritual is finally over? Let's say you get to the final prayer. It's the player's turn. He's done all of the 5 prayers. He's reading, or she's reading, the very, very last prayer. This is what happens. I'm going to show you. This is really cool. Let me just bring this back over here. This is an invisible tile that's placed right here. This invisible tile actually is Marina. So this is what happens at the final moment, right? You've read the final prayer. There's still maybe some zombies attacking. Maybe there's still some of the vampire zombies. You read the final prayer. This bright light illuminates the room. And all the zombies turn to ash. And this is what happens. You're going to double click on the ritual being complete. So let me just get this cleared up. The ritual being complete. Double click. Oh, I got to make sure. Here we go. Double click. Here we go.
Thank you. The place is now safe from the undead. Strahd has taken far too many of the innocent in his lustful search for Tatiana's soul. He must be stopped. I once prayed to the Water Fae at her famed shrine near Berez across the river Luna. Strahd has cursed the Water Fae, and she has become the Swamp Fae, Baba Lysaga, worshipped by the Bullywog who lurk in the swamp. Please find the blue gem, restore the Water Fae, and end the Devil Strahd. I often say the Water Fae prayer to myself to bring me peace. I come from haunts of coot and urn. I make a sudden sally and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. By 30 hills I hurry down or slip between the ridges. By 20 thorps, a little town, and half 100 bridges. To last by Philip's farm I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. I come from haunts of coot and urn. I make a sunlit valley.
What's really interesting here is once you finish the ritual and the bright light wipes out and turns all the zombies into ash, Marina's spirit shows up and she gives you some very important information. Number one, if you do not know where the Water Fae Fane Shrine Stone Circle is in Berez, she tells you it's east of Berez across the Luna River. So you have the location now if you haven't found it yet. She also tells you, if the players haven't remembered or haven't really read through the Fae quest too closely, is she's telling you the Water Fae was cursed and became the Swamp Fae Baba Lysaga. So the players will reinforce that message. Baba Lysaga is the Swamp Fae who is actually the cursed Water Fae that they're trying to restore. She also mentions something about Bullywog who lurk in the swamp and worship her. Who are the Bullywog? What are they? So there's some interesting information here. Finally, she says, get the blue gem. Again, reconnecting. The blue gem needs to be found to restore the Water Fane there and obviously in the Devil's Strahd. And last but not least, she shares with the players the poem, the Water Fae prayer that needs to be recited at the Water Fane Stone Circle to bring the Water Fae back. So there's some great information here that she is sharing. Her ghost materializes, her spirit materializes. Share this as information. The place is now safe from the undead. Here's a lot of important information to restore the Water Fae Shrine. Please help. Please restore the valley. And she tells you the prayer. All that stuff that's text there is really important. The players should obviously keeping notes, but it's reinforcing a bunch of information the players may already have. And I always like the concept, and it's a good rule of thumb, is always reintroduce information different ways, visually, through words, through books, to help the player reinforce the clues and the information that they need to solve this quest. So this is just another way of reinforcing that, or maybe for the players hearing it for the first time. Of course, all of this is also written down in the crypt here. You can also copy and paste this information, put it in Discord, or send it to the players so they can have this information of what she said. Now, when she disappears, on the statue there is an item. It is the Luna Ring. Now, the Luna Ring is attuned. In a Luna Ring, the wearer of the ring may use a bonus action to heal 1d12 worth of hit points, recharges after a long rest. Now, what's interesting about this ring at low levels, and players aren't going to be in Berez at low levels, it's a pretty powerful ring. 1d12 hit points restore in a bonus action, but late game, it won't seem that powerful to you. Your players are going to be level 8, 9, level 10. 1d12 hit points, well, nice, is not a deal breaker, right? but it is. This ring is going to be, this ring could save the entire party or save a particular player enough to defeat Strahd. This ring is a gift from Marina. She is envisioning you fighting Strahd at the end. And I'm going to tell you that fight with Strahd can be deadly. And you can be down to 1 or 2 players defeating him. And you never know, that bonus action, that 1d12, might just give you enough hit points to make it through another round to get off another final attack on Strahd. So this is going to be one of these rings I can see maybe in your game is going to be one of those shocking kind of in the clutch moments where you're like, oh, I'm going to use my bonus action, you 1d12 heal, you get 8 or 9 hit points off of it, boom, you've healed up just enough to get it through that turn or that next round to go ahead and defeat Strahd. So this is a really cool item. I think it's an appropriate item that she leaves to you as kind of a little bit of healing to try to make it through that final combat round. Really cool little fun gift, magical reward to have in the end. Well, that's it for the Berez Church, Marina's monument, and the crypt down here with these new zombie vampires with their horrific scream attack. I really hope you like this. If you're interested in the Foundry module, PDF guides, the voice acting that I've done, all of those are available to members. You can click on the links below to join. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. When you hit that like button, it lets me know that you like the content that I'm providing. Well, until next time, this is Parm King, and I'm saying sayonara until next time, and may all your rolls be critically successful.